What's going on, guys? Training vlog 15. So this is the second session of the new monthly cycle, and tell you what, it's about as tough as I thought it would be. I know it's a bit of an anticlimax there, no real surprises, but there's still a few things to go over today. The main thing is the anterior pelvic tilt is the enemy. It's not getting any better. You can see here in the split squats right now. It's a real bad lumbar. The lower back is just arched, and my stomach's sticking out, and just really hard to keep it tucked in and perform the split squats properly at the moment. And that's just because my hips are not very mobile at the moment. Hip flexors are really tight and probably weak as well, to be honest. But there's work to be done, and if I was to stop my normal training program for every little thing that I have to correct, then I'd never get started. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of people kind of have that that mistake in their thought process where they think that everything has to be perfect before they start doing the work. And sometimes, it's probably better, actually, all the time, it's going to be better to just take action, miss, and then course correct, and then fix the problems along the way. So, I'm not doing myself any favors here with the side profile. It looks like I have a belly, but, trust me, I have abs. Don't worry. It's just the anterior pelvic tilt is just tilting my pelvis forward, sticking the lower half of my spine forward, and it's not a good position to be in. And the thing is, with the split squats, it changes the muscle activation if you're in an anterior pelvic tilt, because the length of the muscles in the position of the squat is changed. And when the length and the position of the pelvis and the muscles that attach to the pelvis is changed in the bottom of a squat, that means that more than likely, most times, the activation of the muscles and the firing pattern of the muscles will be less than ideal. It won't be optimal. It'll be different than what it should be if everything was neutral and level and perfect. Now, it's hard to be neutral and level and perfect all the time, but it's still something to strive for, and it's still something that's really important in preventing injuries. So, I had this exact problem the last time I did split squats, when I did them heavier back in the day, when I was, doing pretty much double this weight, 75 kilos. It's when I hurt my groin in the bottom of a split squat. And you can be sure that I had an anterior pelvic tilt as well back then. But the result of that was that the groin was activating and doing more work than it should have in the bottom of that split squat, where ideally you would want the glutes to be the prime mover. And, that wasn't the case back then. So I'm going to have to course correct a little bit, I think. And part of the thought process that I'm going through at the moment is, how am I going to course correct this program? There's a lot going on at the same time. There's 2 gym sessions a week minimum, 2 or 3 boxing sessions a week, 3 running sessions, and also some extra sessions, 2 or 3 sessions a week where I'm doing some skills work with a football. So it's a lot, and admittedly, I'm not spending enough time on the recovery. It's just a hectic schedule, because 2 YouTube channels as well that I'm trying to drive on my own. This channel and my main channel, which is where I have the more high production value videos with a lot more editing and, speak on philosophical, self-improvement, manosphere, whatever you want to call it, that kind of content. But, this channel here, I'm not really interested in upping the production value. It's more like a video diary for me. Like, even if it doesn't blow up and get followers, it's not a problem. I just want to look back and see my process and see the progress, rather, and the thought process behind each session. So, the thing about this session was that, I did a lot of the volume. I did all of the volume that I wanted to do. which is good. And if you remember, the last training cycle, there were a couple sessions where I had to modify it. I had to do less volume, and this is normal in the schedule of an athlete who is playing a field sport, has to do gym sessions. Sometimes you have to do less sets, and it just is what it is. And it could be for any one number of reasons. The most likely reason is you still want to have exposure to the forces in the weight room without over fatiguing, or you want to just modify the volume because you're already fatigued from the other training sessions in the program or in the weekly schedule. So yeah, the anterior pelvic tilt is still visible here on the RDLs. Strength wise, I think slowly improving. I think there is a little bit of room for improvement in the programming itself. So I am eager to shift to a more force-oriented loading pattern. And what I mean by that is, I'll explain. I'm using a lot of jargon at the moment. But what I mean is, this current meso cycle, this current monthly cycle, and the one beforehand, whenever I did an exercise, all the sets of that exercise were at the same weight, because the goal was simply to expose my body, my muscles and nervous system to controlled loads to increase my tolerance. It's not anywhere near maximal lifting. I'm not going for maxes here, but it's just to get my body used to doing the work. And so that's a key principle that underlines why I will still do a session even if I'm not feeling 100%, because I need to get that tolerance and I need to remain consistent. Because if you skip a session, you never really just skip one session. If you skip one session, then you don't feel as bad about skipping two. So the key is, as best as you can, don't skip one. Right? So the Nordics felt okay. Fair bit of volume, 3 sets of 4. And eventually, like the end goal with Nordics volume-wise would be to get to 4 sets of 4. Maybe 5 sets of 5, but that's crazy. That's a lot. 4 sets of 4 would be nice. And looking for quality as well. I kind of rushed through these. I was sore already. The running sessions have been pretty hard. My hamstrings have been screaming during the sprints, which is not good. It's never a good sign. But so with the Nordics, I've got to be creative and think about how am I going to progress and make myself improve if the quality of reps is stagnant, if it's not improving. Obviously, it's hard when you're running, when you're doing all this other stuff. You're never going to be in a position where you can go max out the Nordics in terms of how far down can you go under control. You got to be at 100% for that. You got to be fresh. When you're doing a lot of other training, you're rarely in that condition where you want to push the Nordics and see how far down you can go under control. So it's tough. I think eventually there'll be a session where I'm feeling 100% and I'll be able to do it. But it wasn't this one. So like I said, I can go off on tangents all day. I'm thinking of moving to a program before the end of this monthly cycle. Same exercises, but what I'm going to do is only have the last set of each exercise for the main lifts. So the squat and deadlift. Only the last set of each exercise will be at the target weight. So it'll effectively be 3 warm-up sets and 1 working set. Now, it sounds easier, and in terms of fatigue on the muscular system and potential muscle gain, it's probably easier, probably less work. But on the other side, that's not really the only aim here. The aim is to get stronger. And strength is a product of the nervous system. So I think that the exposure to that working weight, the heaviest weight, for the last set of the for the last set of that exercise is enough. And that's what I used to do in 2018. The last working set would be at the heaviest weight. I wouldn't do the same weight for 4 sets. So it's more time efficient. You use the first 3 sets as warm-ups. You do 1 working set. You get the nervous system exposed to expressing that high amount of force in the last working set. And then you minimize the muscular damage and soreness to enable you to execute the rest of your training that week at a better level. It's a double-edged sword, because maybe you could argue that my muscles will be less tolerant because there's less muscular load. And that is food for thought. That's why I'm hesitant at the moment. Maybe I'm being impatient. And we'll see. It just depends on how I go throughout the rest of this month. And I think it's going to be inevitable when training with the football team starts, because I have to maximize my performance outcomes on the football pitch. That's going to be the number 1 priority, not the gym. But I still want to get stronger in the gym, so I have to find a way to do that. And I think that's going to be the way to go. Just the 1 last set being at the heaviest weight. So the accessory exercises will be the same though. So like you're watching now, all the accessory exercises, it won't be the same setup where I increase the weight every set, because the nature of those exercises, you never max out on them. It's more for it's a targeted muscular weakness that you're trying to improve. So it'll be interesting. I think definitely for the next session, I'll do the same thing where all the sets will be at the same weight. We'll see how we go and reassess from there. So if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't. Write a comment down below if you like, and I'll catch you in the next one.